Welcome back to the Base Indonesian Show, where we unpack why a friendship between Israel and Palestine, or Palestine and Israel, if you may, depends on who you support, will never work. Why Israel and Palestine, or Palestine and Israel, can never get along. Jews used to inhabit the lands of Canaan and came from the kingdom of Israel and Judea, which is where the Jewish name came from. They got obliterated by the Assyrians and the Babylonians, and later on, the Crusaders that got them sent flying to Europe. Now, thanks to the help of the United Kingdom, in which the Jews are eternally grateful to them by sending weapons to help Argentina in the Falklands War. The State of Israel now claims the entire land that was once Canaan and pushed back the Arab oppressors as stated in unbiased history. The land now rightfully belongs to the Jews, as reportable sources of information like Ben Shapiro, the Mossad, and the Holy Bible would attest to. The name Palestine comes from the word Philistine, a group of seafaring people from the Aegean Sea who inhabited the lands in the southern Levant during ancient times. But the term Palestine isn't used to denote the ancient Philistine. To this day, Palestine is used to describe the people living within the region. And we need to remember that the Levant was a crossroad of major empires, and thus many people settled there and intermingled. Because of that, they're pretty much the natives to the land and are no longer tied to their Philistine heritage. The Palestinians refused how the immigrants stole their lands and created their own country, and thus wanted to drive out all Jewish immigrants from their territory. So they briefly became Jordanians and lost the war against Israel. After that, they don't want to be Jordanians again. But now, they kind of have their own country, which is cool. But the territory is slowly being chipped away by this supervillain of a Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, or Bibi. I still don't get why you guys would elect a guy who literally looks like he's a James Bond villain. Palestine and Israel, or Israel and Palestine, if you will, can't be friends from the simple fact that they want to murder each other. It's all written on the wall. There are extremists in both sides. When what was now Palestine was still occupied by Israel, many Israelis decided to move to Palestine because a 4,000-year-old book that's older than soil says so. Against the wishes of the Israeli government, many of them move. I must point out that the Israeli government is kind of responsible for this mess for not stopping their people from migrating. It's like Jews can't help but to be immigrants in some form or another. The move was supported by Israeli ultra-nationalist movements that had an unhealthy amount of sway within the government. This further angered the Palestinians, who decided to take their anger out on Jordan. When Jordan kicked them out, Palestine became super shady and was responsible for a lot of terrorist attacks between 1960s and the 1990s. The amount of school bus bombings and airplane hijackings managed to annoy the Israelis enough for them to give back Palestinian lands, all but mutilated, into PLO hands. They wanted to take a step far and to call for peace after 50-ish years, only for the Israeli ultra-nationalists to shoot their own prime minister and some unknown people allegedly poisoning the Palestinian president. They had their chance of peace, but from that moment, we can understand that peace was never an option when it comes to these two. The best case to see this theory in play is to see what happened in Gaza after Israel withdrew its military in Gaza back in 2005. Ariel Sharon, then Prime Minister of Israel, planned to withdraw Israeli settlements from Gaza. There are various reasons to do this, whether it was that Gaza was populated densely by Palestinians, creating a security concern for Israelis, to not wanting to administer a large Palestinian area that is a bureaucratic mess. Nevertheless, his withdrawal from Gaza advances the so-called peace process between Israel and Palestine. The withdrawal was not a peaceful process, not at all, and the IDF had to forcibly evacuate, removed many Israelis from the comforts of their own home. But the withdrawal showed the Palestinians that withdrawal of Israeli areas were possible. Many Israelis and Palestinians at home saw this as a hope that the withdrawal would further develop the peace process. Then the Palestinians at Gaza Strip elected Hamas. who wants to eradicate the entire state of Israel and put everyone under Muslim law as rulers of the area. Hamas then pursued a violent policy of blowing shit up against Fatah in Israel, and the rest are up to history. From a furious Fatah-Hamas conflict to the bombing of Gaza by the IDF, and it goes to show Israel that there is no guarantee that Israel will be okay if they grant Palestine more concessions, leading to the aggressive Israeli policies as we see today. On a different perspective regarding the same issue, Israel has also pledged to respect the Palestinian territorial integrity. But in years leading up to 2018, Israel has slowly expanded their borders by building more settlements, taking more lands, and even gained complete control of Jerusalem. Finally, in a brazen act, declared Jerusalem its capital. The Israeli Knesset, I don't even know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try, is packed with right-wing and far right-wing parties or groups affiliated with ultra-nationalist movements, while Islamic and Arab irredentism forms the core belief of Hamas to eradicate Israelis. So both sides are primed to point a knife at each other's throats. To complicate the situation, both the Hamas and Fatah work not in sync to achieve Palestinian complete independence, and thus regularly drag each other on their schemes. Hamas inadvertently dragged Fatah into a conflict with Israel after their deadly attack on Israel in October, despite Fatah's rather pragmatic cooperation with Israel. With experience teaching the both sides that showing weakness or cooperation is met with a smack on the head.
Crazy, dog.
With a pile of shit. There is a huge distrust between Palestinians and Israelis on the government level, all the way down to the public level. It doesn't help that the attacks Hamas perpetuate will fuel a blood feud between Hamas and Fatah for another 20 years, especially since Israel responded even more aggressively, which is well in their rights to be honest, despite the obvious disproportionate reaction and war crimes. So how exactly do they get along? I will probably discuss that on my next video since I'm having a brain overload right now and I don't really know where to start.
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal